Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hebrew Canaanite channel. Please tell me if you can hear me well. Please tell me if you can see me well, if everything is working. Welcome to everyone who is already here watching the stream live and in the chat. I will just straighten up the camera a little bit, move these things around, and now the shot is nice and tidy. Yes, wonderful. Okay, so today what I want to do is to read you a Facebook post and a column in the newspaper. It's like this guy publishes columns in the newspaper, and he also puts them on his Facebook as posts. And it's not a very interesting one by itself, okay? It's just the usual meaningless bullshit that columnists write. But because this guy who wrote this column, his name is Raanan Shaked, because he is such a great representative of a certain faction of liberal Zionist society, the way that he thinks, the way that he writes, and what it exposes about his mental state, emotional state, psychology in general, and dare I say, delusion in general, is very important to understand the collective psychology of liberal Zionism at the current moment, and also to understand some deep and important and wide political processes going on both within Zionist society and I think also around the world. And so again, the post itself is just a starting point to talk about a general phenomenon. And the general phenomenon that I want to talk about, I will say it right off the bat, is that there is a process of whitewashing. The genocide that is still going on in Gaza over 21 months now. Yes, exactly. In a few days, it will be 21 months to the. So I call it the genocide in Gaza, but we also talk about how it's only the current most brutal stage of an ongoing genocide that has been going on for a century now, basically, of the indigenous Palestinian population in this land called Palestine, between the river and the sea, between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. And during this genocide is still going on. It's at full throttle. And already a certain group of people, certain political powers, certain factions are already starting to whitewash their part in allowing and carrying out this genocide already. And I am a little bit worried that they will succeed. Why am I worried that they will succeed? Because I know that the Germans back in the 1940s and afterwards, and the Western world in general, managed to whitewash their part in the genocide of the Jewish people, in which my own grandfather's entire family, except for him, his mother, and his sister, were wiped out, murdered completely by the Nazis. But I say by the Nazis. Was it really by the Nazis? It was also with some sort of participation of the entire German people and the entire Western world. Okay? So they managed to whitewash their crimes, and I see similar processes happening as we speak with regards to the genocide of the Palestinians, again, carried out by the entire Israeli society. With just a small asterisk that there are, let's say, a few thousand Jewish Israelis who were opposed to the genocide from the start, and were very clear about this. There are only a few hundred Jewish Israelis who are, living here in occupied Palestine, who were already proclaimed anti-Zionists and went against Zionism, which is the system carrying out this genocide with uncompromisingly. But the people who are now realizing how this genocide is going to be remembered in history are trying to say that they were always against this. That they were always against this. And not just Israeli society is responsible, as people are commenting in the chat about the complicity of the police in Amsterdam, which is just the arm of the regime in the Netherlands, right? So, and this is just one example. The police in Germany is suppressing protest, the police in the US, the police in the UK. So all of these Western countries are also complicit because they sell weapons to Israel, they buy technology from Israel, they are in business with Israel, they invest in high-tech companies in the military-industrial complex of Israel, and so forth and so on. They are complicit, and they provide diplomatic support for Israel, which is very, very important. Also, they provide propaganda. A lot of money is coming from Europe and from the US that is meant to sustain and to support the colonial Zionist project. So they are also complicit. The Gulf, the countries in the Gulf, in the so-called Middle East, which is a colonial expression in itself, but never mind, are also complicit in this. A lot of countries around the world and organizations around the world are heavily complicit in this genocide, and I think more and more groups and people are trying to wash their hands clean of their complicity in the genocide now that they are seeing how it is perceived and how it will be perceived in history. And this might work for them, just like it worked for the German people who blamed everything on the Nazis, and for the Western world who blamed everything on Germany. It might work. And the only way that we can prevent this from working is to point it out as it is happening and exposing these processes and not letting it happen. And this is what I want, that we will not let it happen. Okay. And all of this around one Facebook post by, an Israeli columnist. We will see. So, before we begin, I want to do the usual spiel. Smash that like button. There are 45 people watching now and only 18 likes. Come on, click like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We went beyond 6,000 subscribers recently, and my current goal is to reach 10,000 subscribers. How many subscribers are we at right now? Let's see. We are at, if the internet will agree working, I will see. We are at 6,050 subscribers. Let's get to 7,000 today and 10,000 next week, okay? Congrats on 6K. Thank you, Julia. Please share this video or other videos from the channel with your friends, with your family, people who you think will find it interesting and instructive. And if you really want to help, you can join my Patreon and donate. And I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to all the people who donated to me on Patreon. I will not say specific names because I don't know if people want to be exposed like this or not. If you want me to say your name and thank you for the donation in a live stream soon, just write a message to me on Instagram and tell me that you want me to say your name and thank you personally, and I will do it on the live stream. I'm now at I think it's $200, $205 a month, which is like it's amazing. It's amazing that this is happening. That people are actually giving me donations, monthly donations. Some of them $2, some of them $5, some of them $10, some of them even $20. That's amazing. And so $205 a month is not enough to sustain myself, but it's becoming something. And if it's like 3-4 times that, then it's like I can do something with this. I can pay my share of the rent, you know. That's like something. Okay, so I really appreciate it. And if you want to be the ones who one of the people who helps me, then it would be greatly appreciated. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Okay, let's start. So first I want to show you just the Facebook, just Raanan Shaked's Facebook profile, and tell you a little bit about him. So here is Raanan Shaked. Okay, this is the amazing picture. Oh, it's from 2007. He hasn't updated. Oh, that's from 2022. Just, you know, a normal guy. Normal guy. He lives in Tel Aviv. Do you see the screen? Do you see it? Okay. In the chat, they're asking, are you not a teacher anymore? I am a teacher. I taught a lesson, a math lesson this morning. Okay. And I have to continue with my normal job of teaching because otherwise I would not be able to sustain myself. Okay, so this is Raanan Shaked. He makes enough money from doing writing workshops and from writing columns. He works at Ynet, which is so Yediot Achronot is a newspaper. It is one of the the most mainstream newspapers in Israel, and Ynet is its website. So Ynet, Yediot Achronot, net. Okay, that's the website. So he writes for Yediot Achronot, very mainstream news outlet. He writes columns every week. He writes a column. Okay. And who is this guy? He is like, he lives in Tel Aviv and he is very Tel Avivian. Okay. He has his family with his, 2-3 kids and probably a dog, and they live in an apartment in Tel Aviv, in a nice apartment in the center of Tel Aviv. Probably, I'm guessing, okay, but this, I'm almost sure it's true. And the apartment costs too much, the rent is too much, and they complain about the rent and about how expensive, groceries are and so forth and so on. And he writes about general atmosphere, and he mostly says nothing of substance, okay? But it's like fluff pieces. And he is very good at making it seem like he is saying something when he is actually saying nothing. If you know about Yair Lapid is the head of the Yesh Atid party. He is a member of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, And he was almost prime minister of Israel, but then the government broke up before he got his turn after Naftali Bennett. This was like 4 years ago. And Yair Lapid started off as a columnist as well, and he wrote fluff pieces that meant nothing and were just bullshit that is designed to create certain emotions and to pretend as if he's saying something when he is saying when he is actually saying nothing. And Raanan Shaked is the same kind of guy. Let's look at his Facebook profile. So look at the cover photo. This is from December of 2023. And you see, the melodrama. Israel is falling apart, and the children are trying to glue it back together, to glue Israel back together. And a little bit weird that this map of Israel, it includes Ramat Golan, it includes the Golan Heights, but and it also includes the Gaza Strip, and it also includes the West Bank. So this map of Israel is a very weird map of Israel, right? Because you can say, okay, so it's the map of historic Palestine, but then it wouldn't include the Golan Heights, right? But so you can say, oh, it's a map of Israel proper, the 48 lines, but then it wouldn't include the West Bank and Gaza, right? And the Gaza Strip. And I think that this is part of the propaganda. When they show you maps of Israel when you are a child, it looks like this. It looked like this. All the maps of Israel that they showed me when I was a child looked like this. This was the shape of Israel as I knew it. The shape of Israel didn't have a hole in the shape of the West Bank, and it didn't have a hole in the shape of the Gaza Strip. So this, when most Israelis think about the map of Israel, this is what they think, and it's not a coincidence that the cartoon looks like this. Okay? And again, the melodrama, oh, Israel is falling apart, and the children are putting Israel back together. We can only count on our children. You know the vibe. Okay. We can go over his profile quickly, his Facebook page quickly. So this is the story that we're going to read. And 1 hour ago, he posted. I was about to put it in the translation app, okay, and read to you the translation in English, but then he did the job for me. He translated it to English, and he put it on the website, on his Substack, and he says, do you know any English speakers who might be interested in my latest column? Please send them the link in the first comment. He put the link in the first comment, and comfort is just let and be blessed. Okay, let the blessings be upon you. Whatever. And he phrased it in a semi clever way. Like, this guy, he thinks that he's like the most clever guy in the world. A lot of people in this Tel Avivian clique, in this Tel Avivian milieu, they put a lot of emphasis on trying to be clever and sarcastic and funny. And to my shame, I was part of this for a long time, of this kind of vibe for a long time. I tried to be clever. And then at some point I was like, oh, these people are annoying and I hate them and I hate trying to participate in this game, and I stopped. Okay. But some people do it. It's their lifetime, it's their life's work to try to be as clever as the rest of the Tel Avivians around them. And let's scroll a little bit. Let's see. So this is the Hebrew version of the article. He put it on his Facebook profile. And the picture is the picture that I put as the cover of this video. And as you can see, it got 5,000 likes. 5,000 likes. I told you it was mainstream. I told you that he was expressing a sentiment that was very, very common in liberal Israeli society. Okay, 5,000 likes and 1,000 comments, and I'm sure that all of the comments are people saying, okay, so I'm sure that a lot of the okay, Raanan, this is a wonderful column. Raanan is fresh in Hebrew. His name means fresh. So Raanan, this is a wonderful column. And this is Daniela London Deckel, who is also a very mainstream famous columnist. A lot of people are saying, okay, I don't always agree with what you write, but this time you managed to describe exactly what I feel, and to add to add the despair and anxiety I experience every time my son has to. Okay, we will read some of the comments later, but this is a very interesting comment as well. But as you can see, all of the comments are, wow, you put into words what I cannot put into words. This is the kind of comments that he always gets. You put into words what I cannot put into words. He gets the general vibe of liberal Zionism, and especially the faction of people who live in Tel Aviv and are part of this Tel Avivian clique and milieu, and he puts it into eloquent words. Okay, he is eloquent. What else? What else do I want to show you? What else does he write? People are tagging him. Some exhibition in London. He wants to show you an exhibition in London. And escapism. Oh, look, I'm in London. I'm a man of the world. Yeah, another English version of one of his columns. This is about the election, and this is against Netanyahu. He's against Netanyahu. He writes against Netanyahu. And this is like 2075 elections, and one is saying, this one is asking, who are you voting for? And the guy is saying, I'm voting for Bibi, only Netanyahu. So he's saying even in 2075, Netanyahu will be the leading candidate, so forth and so on. I don't know. He's very boring. Okay, but let's read his column. Okay, this is the picture, and you can already get the vibe. Okay. So let's read the column and see what we have to say about it. It happens at Urban Outfitters. First, you see the use of the present simple. It doesn't work as well in English. But in Hebrew, it's a kind of trick to put you into the experience. Okay, not it happened, but it happens. It is happening right now as we speak. You can imagine it, and you will be inside the experience. So he has all these cliche rhetorical tricks that he uses. Okay, it happens at Urban Outfitters. Urban Outfitters, a weird place for a meaningful thing to happen, but everything that happens to Raanan Shaked, because Raanan Shaked is such an integral part of liberal society, and liberalism is a very good friend of capitalism. So everything interesting that happens to Raanan Shaked happens at some store or restaurant or where he consumes stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention, I want to thank my friend Shaked. The name of the columnist is Raanan Shaked, and my friend is named Shaked, no relation. His first name is Shaked. He sent me this column, and then I read it to Tamar. I did like a dramatic reading to Tamar, and we were like, okay, I have to read this because it's very representative. Okay, so thank you, Shaked, for sending me the link to this article. It happens at Urban Outfitters, the massive international hipster fashion chain. To Raanan Shaked, Urban Outfitters is hipster. It's not, just a capitalist, conglomerate. It's hipster. It's hip. It's happening, hipster fashion chain where I myself used to shop at age 22. Buying clothes so hideous I deny ever being 22. Look at how clever he is. He tries to be clever and sarcastic and self-deprecating. This is the kind of Tel Avivian vibe that I was talking about. And now my son is about to buy the same stuff. You see the rhetoric. I used to buy there at 22 and now my son buys there. Who can afford Urban Outfitters anymore? People who write columns for Yediot Achronot and get the big bucks. This is how he makes his money. He writes this bullshit. Okay. So you see the narrative. My son, I bought there when I was 22, and now my son, my teenage son or my young son, is buying there. Look at history. The connections between different times in history, so deep and symbolic. And now my son is about to buy that same stuff. History really does repeat itself. I didn't even notice that he actually says history really does repeat itself. First as tragedy, then as farce, and finally as a pair of terrible baggy jeans. Wow, so clever, so deep. Whatever. We're in Camden, London. Because he's such an amazing guy and a man of the world, as I said, and he goes to vacation all the time, and he's not the normal provincial Israeli. He's not one of those Bibi supporters. He is a cosmopolitan. He is connected to the world. He knows about morality, universal morality. He knows about politics. He is aware of everything that's happening in the world. He's not part of that, small, closed-off Israeli society where everyone is stupid and ignorant. He is aware. He is an aware person. This is what he wants to tell us here. He's trying on clothes. His son is trying on clothes, hesitating for a while, and finally, we're in line to pay. Okay. And there, this is the dramatic moment, and there, by the 3 checkout counters, it's piled up neatly, a free magazine. The cover is pitch black, with one bold white headline. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Raise your voice. You see, the drama of history is expressed even in the smallest, most mundane, everyday things like the checkout counter. What a dramatic scene he creates for us. I approach it like it might be a live eel. I'm sorry, I'm going to laugh a lot at this article because of the melodrama. I pick it up, and it turns out to be a kind of trendy zine. Oh, it's trendy. Why does he make sure that he calls it trendy? We will see. Suspiciously full of stylized fashion shoots with hijabs. Suspiciously full of hijabs. Suspiciously. That's really becoming a fashion accessory. I suppose the next big thing in global fashion will be shrouds. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. So the sarcasm and the supposed cleverness is, of course, a thin veil for his Islamophobia. And again, front cover, white on black. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Just like that. As a fashion statement. Hold on. So in Raanan Shaked's mind, it's not actually true that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And if it were true, it's not that people are saying it because it's true and because they care. It's not that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza and people care about genocide, so they oppose genocide. It's just a fashion statement. It's just trendy. He has to tell this to himself because otherwise he might have to face reality and face that people around the world are hating on Israel because of a real reason. So he has to compartmentalize in this way. He has to make excuses in this way. Free a checkout at fucking Urban Outfitters, a Western, liberal, secular shopping mecca. It's Western, it's liberal, it's secular. Why is it against Israel? It's not those extremist radical Islamists, right? Why are even Western liberal secular shopping meccas so clever, right? Shopping meccas. Why are even they against Israel? So weird. So weird. Everything I associate with London, New York, Paris, because I'm a cosmopolitan. I've been to London many times. I've been to New York many times. I've been to Paris many times. I know the vibe. I know everyone there. They're Western, they're liberal, they're secular. They love Israel. Why? Because Israel is Western and liberal and secular. They're supposed to be our guys. They're supposed to be with us. I'm with them. They're with me. Except for those, Muslims who came to Europe and are taking over Europe. They're a threat. And the extreme left, their allies, the extreme left, those crazy extreme leftists. Those are, I can understand that they're against Israel. But the mainstream Western liberal secular people against Israel, I cannot fathom this. All those rivers of Babylon where we sat and wept the day before flying back home to Israel. Now he's describing like a very Israeli experience, a very, mainstream. There is a word in Hebrew, and the word is sachi. Sachi started off as a word for someone who is not on drugs. So the opposite of mastul, which is stoned, is sachi, which is sober. Okay, it's like a slang for sober. But then it kind of shifted and it became a term for someone who is a, let's call it normie. Okay, normie. Sachi is normie. Yes, we use mastul as well. Mastul, it came from Arabic, I'm pretty sure. So, Raanan Shaked is one of the... so, Yair Lapid, who I mentioned before, is the king of the Sachim, okay, of the Sachis, okay? Raanan Shaked is an archduke of Sachi, okay, of the Sachi people. And it's a kind of Sachi experience, a normie Israeli experience, to go to places like London, New York, and Paris, and spend some time there and be, this is so amazing. It's not. I don't feel provincial anymore. I don't feel like I'm in the small, secluded place called Israel anymore. This is an advanced place. This is Europe. This is the US. And then when you have to come back, you sit on, on the rivers of Babylon and weep before you go back to sad Israel. Urban goddamn outfitters. My son sees it and says, I'm not buying here. Because his son is young and he still has the fighting spirit in him. His son is still a radical. You know the expression. If you were not a radical at age 17, then you have no heart. If you are not a liberal at age 37, then you have no brain, right? This kind of sentiment. So his son is still 17. His son is still... why are we reading clearly AI slop? This is not AI slop. This is not AI slop. This is his real sentiments. This is the real. Okay. You have to understand that Zionists are indistinguishable from parodies of Zionists. They are indistinguishable. They really think this. He sat down, Raanan Shaked sat down and wrote this column and was absolutely sure. No, I think the M dashes are because he put it in the AI for translation. I will show you. This is the original column. Where is it? Here. This is the original column. Does it have M dashes there? Maybe it does. Maybe it does use AI. Yeah, there are M dashes here. I don't know. Maybe he uses AI. I cannot distinguish, I must say. But maybe he uses the M dashes because it's for it is stylized for the newspaper. So there's like they have their certain style. Okay. So his son is still a radical. His son still has principles. But what principles does his son have? That if they are against Israel, I'm not buying here. His father, he has become more moderate. He says, I sense the hesitation, and I tell him, he educates him. Don't be so dramatic. Let's separate the clothes from the store. Consumerism is more important than patriotism. This is the eternal struggle in the psyche of the liberal Zionist Tel Avivian. Okay? What is more important? My consumerist identity, my neoliberal identity that I constructed, or my Zionist identity, my patriotic identity, my Jewish identity, and my Israeli identity, and so forth and so on. They're always, when there is tension between these two identities, they have to choose. And this is why liberal Zionism exists. Now I just realized this, that Marx, Hegel, and therefore Marx speak about dialectics and a very short. I'm not an expert. I'm far from being an expert. But from what I understand, every single ideology also contains its own contradiction, and there is a tension between the ideology and the contradiction, and then it's like below the surface, and then there is a crisis when the tension and contradiction goes above the surface, and then there is evolution of this. Okay, this is and you get a new ideology. And this is the kind of thing that's happening here. There was, the Zionism is a colonial movement. It is racist. It is ethno-supremacist. It is apartheidist. It is genocidal, and so forth and so on. Sir, this is when it. Yeah, we're going deep. Okay, but I think it's worth it. So there is Zionism, which is a very, racist ideology and violent ideology. And then there is liberalism and consumerism, which is, ostensibly a non-racist ideology, an inclusive ideology. Okay, it's supposed to be like that. And then there's tension between these two things. And then you get liberal Zionism, which tries to solve all these contradictions. Okay? And the way that Raanan Shaked solves the contradiction is he says, come on, separate between the store and the ideology. Okay? And he says to his son, this chain has zero ideology. It's not really. You want the clothes? Buy the clothes. It's not really ideology. It's just trendy. They only care about profit. Give them their profit, what they care about. They jump on whatever hipster trend is hot. They don't really believe that Israel is committing a genocide. This thing is not for real. And our genocide is trendy now. It's just trendy. And in a year, it will blow over and people will talk about something else. Don't worry. Don't worry. He thinks about it, still rattled. But he stays in line. The education worked. He has been conditioned into continuing participating in consumerism, even though it contradicts his, ideology of Zionism, and he wants to protect the state of Israel, but he has been conditioned now into continuing. This is conditioning into liberal Zionism. You see, this is a moment of conditioning into liberal Zionism. He stays in line, we pay, we leave, and we walk out silent, bitter, feeling unwelcome, tainted, marked. Ever the victim. The Zionist is always the victim. If Israel is committing a genocide, and if people are getting upset about it, and if a certain fashion outlet makes use of, which I agree with him, by the way, I agree with him that Urban Outfitters, with him that they only care about profit, and I agree with him that using the anti-Israeli sentiment and the anti-Zionist and anti-genocide sentiment that is prevalent in the world right now, they use it as a means to increase their bottom line. But the fact that they're using it means that it exists, right? You cannot avoid that it actually exists. You can tell yourself that it's just a trend, a hipster trend. It exists. And because of that, Raanan Shaked and his son are the real victims. They are the real victims here. Let's continue. Even when we try to do the right thing, they try to do the right thing. What do you want from them? Don't buy, do buy. We don't really know what the right thing is anymore. Raanan Shaked is confused. What is the right thing? Should we buy the clothes or not buy the clothes? That is the question. To buy or not to buy. Raanan Shaked is a moral agent, and his moral agency is expressed by his consumerist decisions. And the age-old question of whether to buy or not to buy from Urban Outfitters, even though they jumped on the trend and put up the hip magazines that say we should speak up against the genocide of Israel. Now there's it's a deep moral question whether we should buy the jeans or not. Really, he is a philosopher, Raanan Shaked. He is a moral philosopher, one of the most prominent moral philosophers of our time. We don't really know what the right thing is anymore. We are Israeli, which means in this part of the world, we are starving Gaza. In this part of the world, it means we're starving Gaza. Back home, it doesn't mean that, because back home, we all know that Israel is not starving Gaza, that it's all a campaign of lies led by Hamas. Because back in Israel, our news shows tell us that it is a campaign of lies. And I will show you, I have another live stream planned for later this week, where I will show you the propaganda. Okay, I will do another, analysis of propaganda. Here, we're committing a genocide. Here, we're starving Gaza. Back in Israel, our safe home, we're not. This is why we love being in Israel. This is why we're afraid of going to London. In this part of the world, we're starving Gaza or committing genocide, or both. We know, or prefer to know, that we're not. Oh, there's a crack. There's a crack in the armor of denial of liberal Zionists. You see the crack? Or prefer to know? This is the crack. Now we see the process that is happening in the last few months within liberal Zionist society. This is where the crack appears. Prefer to know. Even Raanan Shaked is now kind of indirectly implying that there might be some truth to that thing that they only say because of they care about the bottom line and because it's trendy. Maybe there's some kernel of weird truth to it, no genocide, but maybe something else that's a little bit close to it. Maybe. We know that we're not. We prefer to know. But we also know Gaza is in humanitarian collapse. Okay, now it's impossible. It's impossible at this moment to deny that Gaza is in humanitarian collapse. It's of course not our fault. Okay, it's not our fault. But come on, they're in humanitarian collapse. Oh, another crack. And yes, we're at least partly responsible. Until now, it was absolutely clear that 100% of the responsibility for the humanitarian collapse that were, we started noticing that there's a humanitarian collapse in Gaza. But it was 100% not our fault, it was Hamas's fault. Now, Raanan Shaked is saying, yes, we are at least partly responsible. Okay. But of course, we're not responsible. Because we sent in hundreds of aid trucks, and Hamas stole them, and the UN blocked them. Now you have to ask yourself, I genuinely do not know the answer to this question. Is he being serious or sarcastic here? I do not know. Is he like 80% serious and 20% sarcastic? Is he like 30% serious and 70% sarcastic? I have no idea. I have no idea whether he actually believes this or not. And I don't know if we will know by the end of this article whether he believes this or not. And this is part of what's so confusing about Zionists in general, liberal Zionists specifically, and all those Tel Avivians, those clever, sarcastic Tel Avivians in particular. They hide their true opinions behind many layers of sarcasm, and I think that they also do it towards themselves. I think if you ask Raanan Shaked, is it true that Israel sent hundreds of aid trucks into Gaza and Hamas stole them and the UN blocked them? He will not know what to tell you. Do you really believe it? He will not know if he himself actually believes it or not. This is my opinion. But of course, we are responsible. Because we made them refugees to begin with and turned their children into starving, mutated images. You can't even tell anymore whether they're real or AI generated. Also, like we can't tell if your text is real or AI generated. Or a love child of both. So what is, so again, look, he's not like, are the images that I'm seeing from Gaza real or AI generated? Maybe it's a love child of both. We cannot know. This is, you see, this is a very clever form of denial. Because when you are a staunch Zionist, an extreme Zionist, you can just outright deny. You can just say, no, there's no starvation in Gaza. No, there's no genocide in Gaza. No, it's all Hamas's fault. Hamas steals the food. No one is starving. You can just say all the lies that you want. You can just say all the propaganda. and believe all the propaganda because you don't really care, and that's it. And you can be a racist and not even feel bad about it, and so forth and so on. But people of the kind of Raanan Shaked, they need something a little bit more sophisticated to placate their own conscience. And this sophistication is the confusion that they create around I don't know, 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 I don't know. This is something that I experienced when I still talked to these people, and I wrote on Facebook. This was in October, November, December of 2023, January, February of 2024. I tried to convince these people that a genocide was actually going on in Gaza, and the most prominent kind of denial that I got is, you're just using terms in a you don't really know, you're just exaggerating, you're a demagogue because you're telling things as if they are the truth, but it's still not clear, it's not clear, it's not clear, and still it's not clear. To these kind of people, still nothing is clear. And this is the way that they avoid, oh, I don't know, it's complicated, it's complicated. But of course, we're not responsible because October 7th happened and Hamas exists and there are still hostages, and that on its own justifies everything. So you see, Olympian level mental gymnastics. I swear to you, when I read this article with Tamar, what I told her is that we were talking about how this is Olympian level mental gymnastics. This is the expression that I actually physically used, okay? It's amazing. It's amazing. But of course, we are responsible because we didn't stop the war when we could have. Because hold on. Because we didn't stop the war when we could have. This guy still is absolutely convinced that to begin with, the war was justified. October 7th happened. Israel had to defend itself. Hamas controlled the Gaza Strip. Hamas are terrorist Nazi monsters, radical extremist Islamist monsters, and they have to be eradicated. So Israel has to defend itself. It has to invade Gaza, and everything is justified. Only a few months later, the war became maybe not so justified, and then we had to stop it at the right time, and then the genocide would not have happened, and everything would have been okay. But the problem is that we continue with it too far. We didn't stop the war when we could have, and Netanyahu would burn every child on earth for 5 more minutes in power. And I don't disagree with him about Netanyahu. I think that Netanyahu is one of the most cynical persons to ever live, one of the most cynical people to ever live, and it's it's a difficult contest. There's a lot of competition, but I think he takes the cake. But look at what he's doing. He's trying to put Netanyahu is evil. Netanyahu is evil. Netanyahu is evil. And I think we should notice the similarity between Netanyahu is evil, Netanyahu is evil, Netanyahu is evil, and Hitler is evil, Hitler is evil, Hitler is evil. Okay? We will continue to talk about this later in the stream. It's a chicken and egg situation that probably goes all the way back to the Big Bang. And here we are. Oh, hold on. I need you to notice something. Look, he goes back. We're not responsible because October 7th happened. And then he says it's a chicken and egg situation that probably goes all the way back to the Big Bang. Zionists have only two modes. They can go back to October 7th to justify what's going on, or they can go back to the Big Bang. There is no in between. Nothing happened between the Big Bang and October 7th. Nothing. 1948, that didn't happen. What about October 6th, October 5th, October 4th, October 3rd, and therefore, and so forth? What about, 1967? What about 1948? What about 1929? This doesn't exist. It's either October 7th, 2023, or the Big Bang. There's a kind of, we were drunk between the Big Bang and October 7th. We don't remember. Yeah, what came first? The Zionist settler colonists or the indigenous Palestinians? It's a chicken and egg situation that probably goes all the way to the Big Bang. And here we are at Urban Outfitters in London with the cashier handing us the news that we're committing genocide. It's the cashier at Urban Outfitters that's giving out us the news. It's not the UN. It's not the ICJ. It's not the ICC. It's not countless humanitarian organizations around the world. It's not Professor Raz Segal, the world leading expert in Holocaust and genocide studies. It's not dozens and hundreds of leading experts around the world who are in full consensus or almost full consensus that Israel is actually committing a genocide in Gaza. It's not B'Tselem, who we will mention soon. It's not them. It's the cashier. It's the cashier at Urban Outfitters that is giving us the news that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And Ori asks, does the cashier condemn Hamas? Does the cashier condemn Hamas? Because if she doesn't, then we can just dismiss. And in return, we're buying jeans. That ungrateful cashier. She's so ungrateful. We're giving our hard-earned money to Urban Outfitters, paying her salary, and she, in return, is telling us that we are committing genocide? So ungrateful. 8 M dashes in one paragraph as well. I agree with you, Lord Sigma Roy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Lord Sigma Roy, I'm guessing, that this article looks like there was some use of AI in its writing, but I assure you that Raanan Shaked stands behind every word and he means every word. Okay? Because there's one thing I never do and one thing I always do. I never feel righteous, even not when I say that I never feel righteous, and I always feel guilty. Why do I always feel guilty? Because of my Polish heritage, because I'm a descendant of Holocaust survivors. I always feel guilty. I never feel righteous, and I always feel guilty. Even if there isn't, and there isn't genocide, it's important. Even if there isn't genocide, now I will say even if there is genocide, but it's important for me to emphasize that there isn't genocide. Even if there isn't, and there is, or was, we don't really know, but I guess there is. Starvation, I know that as an Israeli, I have nothing left to be proud of. No reason to walk the world thinking I'm right and the world is wrong. We see a major shift. And I want to stop now and analyze the psychology of Raanan Shaked, who suddenly shifted and suddenly says that he has no reason to be proud of being Israeli, and that he has no reason to walk the world thinking that he's right and that the world is wrong. What happened? And I think that what happened is that the atmosphere changed. I think nothing about Raanan Shaked's morality changed. Nothing about his ideology changed. Nothing about his perception of the world changed. Nothing about his position changed. Nothing about his compassion or sense of justice changed. It's just that even when he goes to Urban Outfitters and goes to the cash register, next to the cash register, there is a pamphlet, a magazine saying that Israel is committing a genocide. If even Urban Outfitters is saying that Israel is committing a genocide, then probably Israel is committing a genocide, or at least something close to it. At least we have nothing to be proud of. And now I need to change because my overlords, Urban Outfitters, told me that I need to change my opinion. I will change my opinion like a good servant of the neoliberal capitalist order. I see that there are a lot of questions in the chat. Let me say this. Later this week or at the latest next week, I will do another Q&A session, okay? Even before we get to 10,000 subscribers, okay? Because I see that you have a lot of questions. I will try to do it a semi-permanent thing, okay? Where I answer your questions. Okay. I'm surprised the title, he didn't title the article Anti-Semitic Outfitters. Yeah. I love the people in my chat. You guys are adding a lot of color to this live stream. So thank you so much. In fact, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed because Urban Outfitters told me that I should be ashamed. Ashamed of funding. Okay, ashamed of what? Ashamed of what? Are you ashamed that you were one of the people who supported and enabled this genocide, the starvation, the pseudo-genocide, the war crimes, whatever. Something is happening. You already admit that something is happening. You already admit that Israel is doing something that is maybe not so good. And you feel shame. That's an interesting moment, right? You feel shame about something that is going on. And now, what do we have to do when we feel shame? So, in my opinion, when we feel shame, we have to look at ourselves honestly and see what in our actions is causing us to feel shame and change our actions accordingly. Or we should identify that the shame is something that is imposed from the outside and we don't really have anything to be ashamed about, and then ignore those voices around us that are trying to shame us even though we don't deserve shame. These are the two courses. So, for example, if I feel shame for for eating animals, for eating innocent animals when I was 17, 18, 19, I felt shame for giving money to people who killed non-human animals for me to enable me to eat their corpses. I felt shame for it. And what I did was look inside, see that there is a problem with me paying money to people who murder, who enslave and murder innocent non-human animals so that I can eat their burnt corpses. And it took me a while, I admit it took me a while, but then I just stopped doing that. On the other hand, when I felt shame for speaking up against Zionism because Zionist society and Zionists around me tried to shame me for speaking up against Zionism, against the cult of Zionism as a tool of imposing the will of the cult on its members, okay? I looked and I said, why do I feel shame? Oh, it's just because the cult is trying to impose its will on me. There's nothing to be ashamed about. All I am doing is opposing oppression. So I decided, and again, it took a while. It's a difficult process. I'm not done with this process. But what I did was say, fuck this shit. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of speaking up against colonialism, against oppression, against genocide, against ethnic cleansing, against ethnic supremacy, against racism, against militarism, and so forth and so on. I'm not ashamed. These are the two courses. Let's see if this is what Raanan Shaked does. Spoiler, no. What are you ashamed of, Raanan Shaked? I'm ashamed of funding with my taxes a government that says things like soldiers don't fall, they ascend. So I think this doesn't work in Hebrew, in English. I think he ran this through a translating software. So soldiers don't fall. In Hebrew, we when a soldier is killed, we say it's like a euphemism. The soldier fell in battle. Okay, so soldiers don't fall; they ascend. And so in Israeli society, we say that the soldier fell, but the Israeli MK, member of Knesset, member of parliament, Limor Son Har Melech, who is a right wing, who is part of the right wing government, she says, no, the soldiers don't fall, they ascend. They ascend. And he finds that not aesthetic, right? It's like in Islam, we say he was martyred. Yes, exactly. So it's parallel, okay? So he doesn't like that. That is a bit too, an unpleasant expression for him, and it represents a messianic point of view, and he's against that. He's secular. He's liberal. He's Western. He's secular. He's cosmopolitan. So he doesn't like that. Or what Gaza needs now is bombs. Itamar Ben-Gvir said that. Or, yes, I'll starve the Gazans. That's our duty. That Moshe Saada, another member of the Israeli parliament, said this. So, what is Raanan Shaked ashamed of? He is ashamed of paying taxes to a government that says horrible things. Interesting, right? Because I don't know, is that really something to be ashamed of? You have to pay taxes, right? You were born into a certain society. You were you have an Israeli citizenship, so you pay taxes because you are bound by law to do it. If you don't do it, then you will be arrested. Your freedom will be taken away from you. It's a crime, right? So like, is this what you should be ashamed of? And look. He's what is he doing? He's just paying taxes. He's just paying taxes as he is obligated to do by law, because he is a law-abiding citizen. He is, a Western liberal, blah 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 blah. So he's paying taxes. What's the problem with that? There's no problem with that. But he's paying taxes to a government that is at fault. So this is what he is ashamed of. He is guilty only by association. Only by association. He did nothing wrong. Not personally. I'm the guy ashamed to be walking the streets of London while my money fuels a monstrous Israeli propaganda machine, no less vile than Hamas is. Okay, so first of all, he needs to condemn Hamas. He needs to condemn the extremists on both sides, as liberal Zionists love to do. There are the extremists of Hamas, and there are the extremists of the Israeli government, the right-wing extremist Israeli government. Okay? So he's condemning the extremists on both sides, and he's saying, I'm ashamed that my money, again, his being a consumer is his identity. Everything that he does, his morality is based on where his money goes. That's the only thing that determines whether he is a moral person or not. So he is ashamed that his money goes to fund the propaganda machine. One that lied about total victory and one step away from victory, and military pressure will bring back the hostages, and Biden won't let us win, and voluntary immigration, and we found 3 countries for them, and a humanitarian city. And now, I think a lot of my viewers can identify something, a certain sentiment, a certain narrative that is being constructed. And this narrative is identical to the narrative that was constructed in the report by B'Tselem. So I did a live stream last week where I analyzed the new report by the the Israeli human rights organization called B'Tselem, where they finally said outright that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. They called this our genocide. This is our genocide, the genocide of the Israelis, the genocide of the Jews. It's our genocide. So we have to be ashamed of this genocide because it's our genocide. But the narrative that was constructed in this report was that the Hamas attack of October 7th, the criminal, heinous attack by Hamas on October 7th happened. And then the Israeli public was traumatized. And then the extremist, right-wing, messianic government took advantage of the Israeli public using their cynical system of lies and propaganda. They lied to the Israeli public and they took advantage of them to support their plan of ethnic cleansing and genocide. The innocent Israeli public is just a victim of this cynical system of lies and propaganda that convinced them to support a war that actually they found out 20 months later was actually a genocide. And the moment that they found out it was a genocide, they stopped supporting it, like Raanan Shaked stopped supporting it, and like B'Tselem stopped supporting it. This is the out that B'Tselem is creating, is part of creating for liberal Zionists to start opposing the genocide, or at least pretend that they always oppose the genocide. This is the out. I was lied to. I was misled. I'm an innocent victim of a system of propaganda. Okay? And by the way, I'm not saying that this isn't true to some extent. I do believe, and I say this many times on my channel, that there is a sophisticated, powerful system of indoctrination and propaganda that works on Zionists, on people born into the Zionist cult, from the moment that they are born, and every single moment of their lives. And it causes them to be the way that they are. But when I say this, I make sure to make it very clear that I don't mean that this absolves them of responsibility, because each and every one of us has the responsibility to go against this, to think for ourselves and to realize the truth for ourselves and to have our own moral backbone. And the fact that you were misled in some say, okay. And it's not like people didn't try to warn Raanan Shaked way before Urban Outfitters did. I have been trying to talk to Zionists for 21 months now, and many, many years before that, and tell them about the crimes that their country is committing, that they are part of. Many Israelis know about these crimes. They served in the Israeli military. It's not like the information is not out there. I have to tell you that it is my very undeniable experience that Zionists do not want to hear about what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. They do not want to hear the truth, and they will tell you 1,001 excuses for why it's really, really okay what Israel is doing, and only when they have no choice, when the entire world is pressuring them to start, behaving as if they realize something finally, only then will they change. They will shoot, and when you confront them with the fact that they shot, they will cry like a typical classical narcissist, because this is collective narcissism. I feel like this kind of apologia is very American coded. Yes, definitely. Israel is the Israeli politics and collective psychology is very similar to US American politics and collective psychology. Like an American could say, our tax dollars fund this, But in Israel, he also has his community directly involved. I think that U.S. Americans also, many of them participate in the actions. They at least enjoy the fruit of the actions of the USA around the world, the genocidal actions of the USA around the world. Maybe all Israelis who have been indoctrinated should go to Urban Outfitters to awaken from their slumber. Okay. Okay. So you see, so one of my points in the last live stream that I did, one before last, around B'Tselem's report, was that B'Tselem is now leading the charge to whitewash liberal Zionist society from responsibility to the genocide, because they are part of liberal Zionist society. And you see here exactly how it's working. We saw one side of it, the report of B'Tselem, and now we're seeing the other side, Raanan Shaked, expressing the very same sentiment and using the very same narrative that B'Tselem used and promoted to whitewash his own responsibility for the genocide. So you cannot expect human rights organizations like B'Tselem to lead the resistance against the genocide, but you can definitely expect them to lead the efforts to whitewash the responsibility of liberal Zionists to the genocide, because this is their job. This is what they are paid to do. And ever since I read, since this live stream that I did about B'Tselem, I read a thread on Twitter. I read a thread on Twitter by Adi Kalai, the guy who is behind the channel Rev and Reeve. And he did an analysis of B'Tselem's report, and he said a lot of things that were similar to what I said. But he also added some things that I didn't know, which is the sources of funding for B'Tselem. And he explained a little bit about the humanitarian, the human rights organization industrial complex. And it turns out that B'Tselem gets funding from very nefarious sources. And I will do another live stream where when I learn more about this, I will go deeply into this, and I will say more about this. Okay. Cindy is saying, great YouTuber. Yeah, I highly recommend his video. His video on Gaza was amazing. Yes, that's true. Okay. So we see how B'Tselem paved the way for the whitewashing, and Raanan Shaked is jumping on the bandwagon, and he is also working hard on whitewashing his own crimes. And as you see, this post got 5,000 likes from people who also want to whitewash their responsibility for the crimes. Let's continue. So, I'm the guy ashamed to be walking the streets of London while my money fuels a monstrous Israeli propaganda machine no less vile than Hamas's, one that lied about total victory, blah, 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 blah. And we found 3 countries for them and a humanitarian city. It's their fault. It's their fault. I'm ashamed because it's their fault. I'm ashamed because it's their fault. What did he say before? I never feel righteous and I always feel guilty. I think you do feel righteous, and I think you don't feel guilty. I think you're lying on both counts. I am. Whether I like it or not, it's not my... Whether I like it or not. Whether I like it or I was forced into this. Whether I like it or not, I am part of this madness. Am I mad? No, but I'm part of this madness whether I like it or not. I paid for it. Again, the money. I live in it. It's my government, like it or not. I am stained by it. I'm stained by the government. Like it or not, I'm stained by it. Because the ultra-religious, again, messianic, apocalyptic, ignorant fanatics now running Israel are my official representatives, and they speak for me. Actually, I think in the Hebrew version, it did say messianic. Let's see. Da-da-da-da-da. Whether I like it or not. Here, I knew it. I am stained by it because here, this is the word hameshichim, the messianic. It said messianic. Ultra-religious, apocalyptic, actually he says in Hebrew, messianic, which is a term that that liberal Zionists love to use to shift the blame on others. Ignorant fanatics now running Israel are my official representatives, and they speak for me, whether I like it or not, and whether I agree with them or not. And do I agree with them? We won't talk about that. I am managed, represented, dictated to by people I oppose. Oh, he opposes. He opposes them with every fiber of my being. With every fiber of his being, he opposes them. We will see. We will see whether he opposes them with every fiber of his being. We will check that. That fills me with nothing but shame. And Tamar is in the chat now, watching the live, and she's saying, inventing collective guilt in order to water down and erase individual responsibility. This is what is happening here. And now I cannot help but say that this is, I wasn't alive in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. I wasn't there. But I still experience the repercussions of what happened back then, back there. And I see that German politics and German culture is guided by a sense of collective guilt for the Holocaust, for the genocide of the Jews. And I think that what we see in Germany now, the so-called denazification that Germany went through, which is nothing but a complete lie, it didn't really happen. What happened there, I think, is the exact same thing that is happening now. I think that the process of whitewashing the crimes of the entire Israeli society and the entire Western world, who not only supported and enabled this genocide, but created this genocide and has a big responsibility for the genocide, I think it's now, now we're scapegoating, we're moving the guilt, we're shifting the guilt. It's not the US's responsibility. It's not Germany's responsibility. It's not the UK's responsibility. It's not any country in the Western world is not responsible for this, even if they gave weapons to Israel, even if they gave diplomatic support for Israel, even if the police in that country violently oppressed protests against the genocide, even if they arrested people for speaking up against the genocide, even if they repressed Palestinian voices, they are not at fault for this. Within Israeli society, it's not the liberals, it's the messianic, extremist, right-wing government. Even if the liberals propagated the Israeli government propaganda, even if they called Hamas monsters, even if they said that we should destroy Hamas, even if they said that we support the brave soldiers of the IDF, even if they said that all Palestinians are at guilt because they danced in the street after October 7th, even if they spread lies about systemic rape in October 7th, even if they spread the lies about the 40 beheaded babies, even if they spread the lies about the baby in the oven, if they believe those lies, if they spread those lies, even if they were part of the Israeli Hasbara machine and they bravely wrote in social media arguments for why Israel is a good state and why we how we invented the cherry tomatoes and ICQ. And you should like Israel because we're liberal, because we're feminist, because we're, even if they are vegan and they engaged in vegan watching of the genocide, which as a vegan I oppose to, because I think it weakens the vegan movement when you use the vegan movement to whitewash to vegan wash a genocide. It weakens the vegan movement. So I'm against this. And some vegan Israelis did that. Even if you did all that, it's not your fault. You're not at fault. Whose fault is it? The right-wing extremist messianic government. And here you see the role of the overt fascists in the system, the role of the liberals, that is the covert fascists in the system, is to support anything that the system wants to do when the system needs their support. And the role of the overt fascists is to whitewash the liberals, that is the covert fascists, after the support of the covert fascists, the liberals, is not needed anymore. Then they can wash their hands clean and put all the guilt on the scapegoat that is the overt fascists, those extremist, messianic, right-wing government. This is how the system operates. This is why I say that liberals and so-called fascists, that is covert fascists and overt fascists, are two integral parts of the same system. This system could not operate with either part missing. Both parts work together. None of them is more or less at fault for this. They are both at fault for this. And Raanan Shaked is also at fault for this. But now he's trying to pretend that he is not. Which is why I no longer bother feeling offended or misunderstood. He felt offended or misunderstood for 20 months. But now he's over that. Now he finally realizes that for all this time he was lied to. He was pulled by his nose to support this thing that turned out to become a genocide. And he really felt offended and misunderstood. And he fought this, this sentiment that he got from all around the world of people calling him, a Zionist, as a curse word, and people telling him that he supports a genocide and that he supports starvation and that he supports mass killing. He's like, okay, I'm done fighting. This is a kind of passive-aggressive sentiment, of course. Okay, never mind. Okay, I am at fault. You know what? I am at fault. You know what? You're right. You know what? I am part of it. Because I paid taxes to this government, whether I liked it or not. I paid taxes to this government, and whether I liked it or not, I am part of this society. And whether I liked it or not, I was fooled by this propaganda. You know what? I am at fault. I'm so sorry. This is the show that he is putting on now to whitewash his own involvement in the genocide. Because I'm not misunderstood, and I've run out of patience for Israelis who wake up every morning outraged that the world doesn't love us. I'm not one of those anymore. I rejoined the world, and now, how do I rejoin the world? What is the ceremony that I have to do? Yes, you are right. I am guilty. Of being part of it, of being forced to be part of it. Like Tamar is saying, substituting fake guilt for real guilt. And please, I'm so sorry for being duped into maybe paying some taxes that were used, whether I liked it or not, to support this thing that turned out to be maybe something not so good and not so justified. So please accept me back into civilized society. I'm not offended when Skazi, a trans DJ from Israel, gets booted from a music festival. So this is a story that happened a couple of weeks ago. There is this DJ, his name is Skazi, and I don't remember the name of the festival, but they didn't want to have him on the festival, and I saw his interview with Israeli media after the fact, and he was like, Am Israel Chai. It's also a text that I can go over for an hour and analyze the psychology, but let's not do that now. Um, and I must admit that when I saw this interview, I had the feeling that the people who didn't want Skazi to be in the show, he didn't want him to be in the show because he's Israeli. And they didn't want to be associated with Israeli. But, and then I started wondering, like, why did they invite him to begin with if they didn't want to invite Israelis? And that was kind of weird for me, but I was like, okay, whatever. But now I realize, after reading Raanan Shaked's article, I realize that he was booted from a music festival after insisting on waving an Israeli flag on stage. So what actually happened there? What actually happened was that Skazi was invited to the festival. He could have performed on the festival. Nothing bad would have happened to him. But he was so obsessed with his patriotism that he insisted that he put an Israeli flag on stage. And then the organizers of the festival were like, bro, we want you to perform at the festival, but actually putting an Israeli flag at this moment in time, it wouldn't look so good. So maybe you can, just don't insist on it. You will do your show. Nothing bad will happen. Everything will be okay, and we will go on as normal. But he was like, no, Israel is being shamed all around the world, and I need to protect Israel, and I need to do a smara, and I'm proud of my Israeli heritage, and you will not silence me. So I want to put the flag of Israel on stage when I perform. And they were like, please, can you just chill? Just do the show. Don't make problems. And then he insisted, and then they were like, okay, so if you insist, so we can't do that. We're sorry. No, we cannot allow you to put an Israeli flag on stage. We want this to be apolitical, okay? So we're sorry. And then he was like, those anti-Semites wouldn't let me perform just because I'm Israeli. Just because I'm Jewish, they won't let me perform. Am Israel Chai, Am Israel Chai, Am Israel Chai. This is Israelis. Always the victim. What does Raanan Shaked think about it? He thinks, because he is such a cosmopolitan and such a liberal and a Western, he's Western, he knows Western values. He knows how to be a good neoliberal capitalist. So he advised to his child to not get too upset about this magazine that says that Israel is committing a genocide, and to just go on with his life and buy the clothes, and don't worry, everything is okay, just go with the flow. It's just a trend, it will blow over, everyone will forget about it, don't worry. This is what he thinks about Skazi. He thinks that Skazi was not smart about it. What does he think Skazi should have done? He thinks that Skazi should have said, okay, I will not put up the flag, I will not insist on it. But then he thinks that Skazi should have been clever, a more subversive, super subversive and radical, going against the system, a more subversive, brave, intelligent musician would have just pulled the flag out, not what you think, pulled the flag out during the set. How is Raanan Shaked different from Skazi? Not that they have different opinions, but that Raanan Shaked would have been smarter about it, So this is the advice that Raanan Shaked gives Skazi. Wave the flag, but do it in a smart way. Do it in a subversive way. Be a revolutionary. I'm not offended. I'm not offended. when a group of Israeli teens gets kicked off a flight. For what? For what? For singing in Hebrew non-stop. This was another story that happened a couple of weeks ago, that there was a group of Israelis, actually of French Jews born in France, and then they made Aliyah. That's it. That is, they emigrated to Israel and they became settlers on occupied Palestine. And they learned the way of the settlers. And I don't know exactly what these guys sang. I didn't see any video recordings, but I will bet any amount of money that what they sang was racist songs, like we saw Israelis all around the world singing, like we saw the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv singing in Amsterdam, and then complaining that they were pogromed. And like we saw just recently, fans of Beitar Jerusalem singing in, where was this? I don't remember which European country. Okay. What they sing is death to Arabs, let the IDF win, right? They're singing Gaza is a graveyard. Azaza bekvarot. Don't cut this part out. Azaza bekvarot. Azaza bekvarot. This is what they sing. Gaza is a graveyard. They love this song. Mavit la'arabim, Mavit la'arabim. Death to Arabs. That's what they love singing. And I'm guessing, oh, it was in Greece. Okay. Yeah, in Athens, right. So I'm guessing, time to cancel you, Alon. Clipped, time to cancel you. This is the danger of trying to do parody. But I think parody, oh, it was in Romania, right. It was in Budapest. No, it was in Budapest. I think it was in Hungary. In Budapest, I think. But I don't remember. Maybe it was in Romania. Never mind. It was in some European country that they sang these songs. It could have happened anywhere, and the same thing would have happened. So this is the danger of trying to do parody. But I think that parody is one of the most powerful weapons that we have against this regime, the Zionist regime, and oppressive systems in general. Why? Because these systems are both powerful and ridiculous. And when we emphasize the ridiculous part of these systems, I think that they become more powerful. So we need to mock these people as much as we can when it is fitting. Because when you mock people, they lose their power. This is why the policeman who investigated me on Thursday when I was arrested in a protest, he hated it when I was calm in front of him, when I had a smile on my face, and when I quipped and indirectly called him a clown. He hated it because I was mocking him, and that meant that he was way weaker. He understood that he was weak and could not influence me. So this really infuriated him, and he tried to regain his power when I mocked him. So we have to mock systems of oppression. Parody is a hard job today. Trolling is harder these days because people take incredibly silly proclamations seriously. There's no smell test. Yes, you're right, Dusty. But it's also understandable, right? Because Zionists are a parody of themselves. It is literally, I put up a story on my Instagram page just yesterday with a video of someone with a yarmulke, a kippah, that has the Star of David on it, and he's mocking children in Gaza for having nothing to eat. And I still don't know whether this video is a real Zionist speaking seriously or a parody of Zionists. I genuinely do not know. And what I wrote is, it is literally impossible to differentiate between Zionists and parody of Zionists. Impossible. What is the difference between a yarmulke and a kippah? It's the same. Kippah is in Hebrew. It's from Hebrew, and yarmulke is from Yiddish. It's the same. So it's hard to do parody because you can easily be mistaken for being serious because people say things seriously that are worse than what you say as a parody. So I don't know. Okay. So let's continue with Raanan Shaked. Which is why I no longer feel, I'm not offended when Skazi, blah, blah, blah. I'm not offended when a group of Israeli teens get kicked off a flight for singing in Hebrew non-stop. So Raanan Shaked is now ignoring that what they probably sang in Hebrew was racist songs like Death to All Arabs and Let the IDF Win. What was the problem? The problem was that they sang and that they were rude. Not that they were genocidal settlers. Not that they were racist. Not that they were, violent. That they were rude, mostly because I think anyone who starts singing on a plane should be ejected, ideally through the window. Because Raanan Shaked has such a strong sense of morality that when anyone sings on a plane, he thinks that they should be ejected from the plane, ideally through the window. So clever again. Okay? Because he has a zero tolerance policy against people singing on a plane, including those settlers, those French Jews who emigrated to Israel, became settlers, and learned the genocidal rhetoric and repeated the genocidal rhetoric. What was the problem? The problem was that they sang on the plane. See, again, how he replaces the real crime with a fake crime for the, as a rhetorical trick, manipulation. I'm not offended when Israelis at a restaurant in Europe are asked to leave for being too loud, because I know exactly how loud certain Israelis can get in public. What is the problem with Israelis? The problem is that they're rude, that they're loud, not that they are supporting a genocide, not that they are part of a settler colonial ethno-state project, not that, but that they're loud and rude. And here Raanan Shaked is lying, because just the other day, an Israeli musician, classical musician, I think he's a cellist or something like that, a world-renowned cellist, was kicked out of a restaurant in Germany with his Israeli friends because they were speaking Hebrew. So I assure you that a world-renowned classical musician wasn't speaking loudly and wasn't being rude. He was just speaking Hebrew. And now Israelis are kicked out just for speaking Hebrew. And this is another case that I want to do a whole, section about. Like, what would I have done? Like, if I go outside of occupied Palestine, outside of the place called Israel, mistakenly called Israel, if I go to Germany or Spain or Italy or the UK or the US or Greece or Romania or whatever, and I speak Hebrew, I might speak Hebrew with a friend of mine who speaks Hebrew. And it might be that people there, the owner of the place, would think that it would not want me there because I'm Israeli. What would I do in that situation? And my feeling is that if I just go, no, free Palestine, I'm anti-Zionist, and speak with this guy, instead of throwing me out, they will, love me and sit with me and even, give me a beer on the house, whatever. This is what I think. And I think that if you get kicked out of a restaurant, then this means that there's probably a reason why you were kicked out. And I don't think that this reason is necessarily that you're loud and rude. I think that the reason is that you are part of a machine that is committing a genocide and that you are supporting this genocide. To hell with it. We earned this. Even if we didn't, the Israeli government earns it for us every single day. Again, he is just a victim of the Israeli government. Okay, we're almost done. And I don't need to be offended in Europe. I've already been offended at home. You see the passive-aggressive, passive-aggressive combined with like fake cleverness and sarcasm. That's his vibe. That's the Tel Avivian vibe. The Israeli government offends me in every imaginable and unimaginable way. Again, the Israeli government is a problem. I've been walking around for 2 years now, soaked in the warm urine of their contempt. Because Raanan Shaked has spent the entire last 2 years fighting against the Israeli government, going on barricades and proclaiming that he is against the genocide. Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, and we have to stop the genocide in Gaza, and we have to stop Zionism, and we have to stop ethnic supremacy, and we have to stop the apartheid, and we have to stop the occupation. This is what Raanan Shaked has spent the last 2 years doing, just like I was, right? Exactly the same way that I have been proclaiming every single day for the last 2 years that I'm against Zionism, that I'm against the genocide, that everything, that it all must stop, that we need to stop it right now, and that we need one state for all its citizens, and that we need redistribution of resources, and that we need right of return, right? This is what Raanan Shaked has been spending in time doing, and the Israeli government just didn't listen to him, and instead, urinated on him. This is what happened, right? We will see. Streaming down from whatever diving board they're pissing from today. Yeah, there is an expression in Hebrew, pissing from the diving board, which is like being, overtly disrespectful. And even when I walk down a peaceful European street, all I want most of the time is to cry, oh, poor Raanan. He wants to cry because he feels shame for the actions of the Israeli government that was imposed on him, whether he liked it or not, who lied to him, who deceived him. Oh, he wants to cry, poor Raanan. I don't even know exactly why. I agree, you don't know exactly why. Probably for the lost Israel that sunk like a continent. The problem is that Israel is lost. His beloved Israel, who he loves so much, is lost. Israel is now overrun by messianic extremist right-wing politicians. The Israel that he loved is lost. The appreciation of the world is lost, and this is the true problem with what's going on here. Because the Israeli government committed crimes in Gaza and created a humanitarian catastrophe, now the image of Israel is tarnished forever. He lost Israel, and that is the real tragedy here. That Raanan Shaked lost his beloved country. And again, I want to tell you that the usual discussion within Israeli society about crimes being committed against Palestinians, that is done in mainstream society and in the mainstream media, has exactly two positions. One position is what we're doing is good and justified because we need to do it because the Palestinians are inferior and they're terrorists and they need to be handled. And the other position is that what we're doing is not so good. Why? Because it's problematic for Hasbara. That is the second position. And this is the position that Raanan Shaked is expressing here. What is the problem with the genocide? That it damaged the image of Israel irreparably. And also his image, because that's what Raanan Shaked cares about, his image. And this is why he changed his mind about the genocide. Because his image, he understands that he cannot repair his image anymore unless he does this move that's designed to keep, to whitewash his involvement and complicity in the genocide, and then he can repair his image. So he does this. I don't know why, probably for the lost Israel that sank like a continent. For the hostages that sank with it. Again, the hostages are the real tragedy. For what used to be my home and now feels like home, only to people I can't stand. Now it doesn't feel like my home anymore. It's the home of the messianic right-wing extremist government. Oh, I'm so sorry for you, Raanan Shaked. It must feel very, very bad to lose your home. You don't have a home anymore, right, Raanan Shaked? You cannot go back to your cushy apartment in Tel Aviv in the 20th floor. You cannot go back to the restaurants in center Tel Aviv to have a lavish dinner every night in a different restaurant, enjoying the privileges that you get at the expense of both Palestinians and non-human animals whose corpses you are consuming. That's such a shame, Raanan Shaked, that you lost your home. Such a shame. Really, losing your home is a very, very bad thing to happen. I don't want anyone to lose their home. And you don't want anyone to lose their home either. Right, Raanan? And to people you can't stand. That's even worse, right? To people you can't stand. And the sadness, that deep, quiet, tearful sadness. Oh, I'm almost crying with you, Raanan. Doesn't leave me. Not in Israel. Not in London. I'm guilty. I'm stained. I'm anxious. I keep my Israeliness under wraps. Oh, it must be so difficult, Raanan, to hide your identity because your identity is being persecuted around the world, right? You are oppressed. You are such an oppressed person, Raanan, right? Crocodile tears. This is a speciesist expression. Please don't use this expression. Say narcissist tears. It's more accurate and not speciesist. And I don't get offended anymore. How many times can you say that? If you say that more times, we might even start to believe you. I earned this. I paid for it. I'm going back to the country that created it. It's mine, no matter how much I hate it. Again, we see echoes of the B'Tselem report that called the report our genocide. Our genocide. The collective guilt is here to replace the personal guilt that can become personal responsibility, because collective guilt cannot become personal responsibility. But personal guilt can become personal responsibility. So what is the psychological trick that is being done here? We replace the personal guilt that can become personal responsibility and is connected to our actual actions that were wrong. We replace it with collective guilt. And collective guilt, okay, it's collective guilt. No one is responsible. If everyone is responsible, then no one is responsible. If everyone is guilty, then no one is guilty. And this is exactly what the Germans did at the aftermath of the Second World War and after they committed their genocide. They replaced the personal responsibility of each and every German, or at least of the vast majority of Germans who supported everything that was happening in real time, in their own way, and especially liberal Germans who I'm sure cooperated highly with the Nazi Party and their actions. They replaced it with collective guilt. Oh, the German people. And then they didn't have to be accountable for their own actions and their own crimes. This is a very clever trick, and we mustn't fall for it again. Never again. Never again. Never let the perpetrators of the genocide and the ones who allowed, supported, committed the genocide to whitewash their responsibility of the genocide. Never again. It's all of ours, Israelis. It's our genocide. It's our genocide. Wherever we go, until further notice, until the trend blows away and everyone will stop talking about it. Okay, so this is what Raanan Shaked thinks today. And what I want to do now is show you what Raanan Shaked thought, let's say, on February of 2024. Let's see. This is a post from Raanan Shaked from 2024. What was the name of the translation of the translation app that was recommended to me the other day on a live stream? I forgot it. And maybe we can use that one to translate this post by Raanan Shaked. Can anyone write it? Deep L. Okay, wonderful. Deep L. Let's do it. Deep L. I will put this post in Deep L and we will read it. Okay. Okay. Stop sharing this and start sharing this. Why DeepL? Just because it's a good one. I don't see how this is English. Why didn't it detect this to be? I'm sorry, 1 second. English, American, whatever. Why does Hebrew not exist here? What is going on here? I'm not sure DeepL works so well. Let's just DeepL is anti-Semitic. Use Yandex Translate. Let's see. Yandex Translate. Let's try that. I am not a robot. I am a free man. From Hebrew, not to Russian, but to English. Okay. Okay. Great. So he's talking about a fat red-haired cat that lived in his neighborhood. And he's it's a cat. He's a cat that is kind of unhealthy, and then his child started feeding the cat, and this became a relationship between the child and the cat and the family and the cat. And then the cat started asking for food, and he was like, okay, whatever, that's okay. But then he realized that the cat became a settler at his door, and the cat keeps watching him when he's eating a sandwich, and the cat is behaving as if Raanan Shaked owes him something, owes him food, blah, blah, blah. He's being clever. Doesn't matter. He says, I can chase him away, but the consequences will be dire. My child will not talk to me anymore. And worse, he will come back within a few minutes. Okay, you will learn to live with it. But then winter broke, and the red-haired cat was still there, and he was wet and frozen and miserable. And then the moment, the dramatic moment is that Raanan Shaked suddenly started feeling pity over the cat, being started feeling compassion towards the cat. Okay, and I don't even know why he mentions Yasser Arafat. I don't even know. In his twisted mind, it works. And because he felt compassion for the cat, the dog that he had. I told you they have a dog. I told you they think that they have a dog, but they actually take care of a dog. And the dog attacked the cat. Not really ate the cat, but it's only because he protected the cat. He's so brave. He protected the cat, and the dog attacked him. And now the analogy. What is the analogy? The next day, something strange happened to me in a similar but different context. I read in the movement's newsletter in what do you mean the movement's newsletter? Hold on. Oh, the movement when he's oh, he's so clever. When he says the movement, he means leftists. Raanan Shaked considers himself a leftist. Okay, understand this. When you ask, where are you politically, Raanan Shaked, he will say, I belong to the left. This is what he thinks. Zionist left. Okay? So Raanan Shaked says that he wrote the Movement newsletter, Haaretz newspaper, which is the newspaper of the leftists, okay? It's actually a liberal Zionist newspaper with some vaguely leftist token writers. So you read in Haaretz a report from what was happening in Gaza. This is February of 2024. Okay, this is February of 2024. Among the ordinary residents, which accompanied an apocalyptic photograph of a okay, among התושבים הפשוטים, like the simple people, the simple folk, what's happening in Gaza among the simple people, those who are unaffiliated with Hamas. This is what he means. And there's pictures from Gaza, and those pictures are very sad in his opinion. Okay, and he says that the report is very difficult, starvation, extreme scarcity, exhaustion, no water except dirty groundwater, no electricity or heating. A can of tuna sold for 100 shekels. Hunger leads people to bake pitas from animal feed and fodder. So he read about, do you like Gideon Levy? That's another spiel that I can go on. Gideon Levy is a Zionist. In the end, he is a Zionist. That's all I will say at this moment. Okay, but so now people are upset about the analogies with animals. I'm not upset about that. All humans are animals. I don't think that cats are inferior to Homo sapiens. I actually think that cats are superior to Homo sapiens. Okay, I think that all non-human animals are actually, if anything, superior to humans, because humans are the worst kind of animal. Humans commit genocide. Humans do holocausts. Humans tell bad jokes. Humans oppress. Humans are lie. Humans are narcissists. Humans do all the bad things. Okay, I do agree that Raanan Shaked's attitude towards cat is analogous to Raanan Shaked's attitude towards Palestinians, in the sense that Raanan Shaked thinks both are inferior to him, And therefore, he can feel compassion towards the cat, which is a mistake, as you will see. And also he can feel compassion towards Palestinians, which is a mistake, as you will see. Okay? So what is compassion? Compassion is something that you feel towards those who are inferior towards you. If you think someone is inferior to you, then you can feel compassion towards them. Okay. So blah blah blah. I can go on. It doesn't get any better. He's really upset about what he read about Gaza. And then he felt compassion. Okay. Let's read this sentence because this is the most important. I had never, I felt something strange that I had never felt before. An automatic compassion. Because this is his natural reaction, right? Compassion towards those who are inferior to him, but suffering. An automatic compassion, immediately overwhelmed by a concentrate of, it's your problem, you brought it upon yourselves, there is a reason for this, there is cause and effect, there is a price to pay for your actions. So Raanan Shaked is in a very uncharacteristically to Zionists honest way telling us how his psychology works. Okay, he's saying I started feeling compassion, but then the propaganda kicked in. Then the tools that are meant to prevent me from feeling compassion started kicking in, and I started telling the excuses. For why I shouldn't feel compassion. So that compassion became like boiling water doused in cold water, because the antidote for the compassion is the excuses. Doused in cold water, some lukewarm, almost indifferent, dulled emotion. And I think that Raanan Shaked is being honest here. I think he really didn't. I think that starting October 7th and until recently, what he felt was indifference towards Gaza. Why? Because when he saw the images from Gaza, he started feeling compassion, but then the propaganda worked and balanced it out and made him feel, and the result was the balance was indifference. This, I think he's being honest here. The kind of pain you're supposed to feel when you're human, but someone injected a local anesthetic there, and the pain, if anything, became completely dull. I tried to feel the pain of the Gazans, to dive into basic compassion, and for a few moments, I felt those emotions somehow, but immediately the emotion dimmed again, moved away from me, went from hot to cold, peaked at even a little, like they deserve it, and then returned to the halfway point, knowing what I was supposed to feel, knowing that I was supposed to feel something that I just couldn't feel right now, at the sight of children and adults suffering, hungry and frozen 65 miles away, 65 kilometers away. That's what he says. I think this is an amazingly honest description by a liberal Zionist of how the Zionist propaganda works on him to prevent him from feeling the actual proper emotion that is the actual proper response to seeing other people suffering not far away from you and in your name. They tell you that that they deserve it, and you believe it. But Raanan Shaked didn't think. He wrote this, and he didn't do He didn't do what needs to be done, which is looking at himself honestly and thinking, hold on, is it okay that I don't feel the normal emotion of compassion when seeing suffering? Is it why? Why don't I feel it? Is this thing that was shoved into my brain, blah, blah, blah. Now he's saying that the government shoved those, lied to him. Now he's saying the government lied to me. But in real time, he didn't bother to question the truth of these devices. He didn't, and he was resistant to looking at it, okay? And I realized that the October 7th war took away from me what? And I realized that the October 7th war took away from me, and through no fault of my own. This is what he's saying, and through no fault of my own. Already back in February of 2024, he's saying it wasn't my fault. Then it was Hamas's fault. Then it was the October 7th attack. It took away my compassion from me. This is a very, very prominent liberal Zionist emotion or sentiment. During those times, I lost my sense of compassion towards those Palestinians. I lost my sense of compassion. The October 7th attack took away my compassion, and it's not even my fault. Yes, so Tamar is saying exactly what I was saying. Also, for context, I'll mention that time it was very common here to write or say publicly, I have lost my compassion. I've lost my compassion. It was like the collective sentiment of liberal Zionists. I lost my compassion. I had compassion, but now I lost my compassion. Why? Because of Hamas. Now it's not because of Hamas. Now it's because of the lies of the government. Because they cannot blame Hamas anymore. It's not popular anymore. It doesn't work anymore. So now they blame the government. But in real time, they didn't think about how the government is manipulating them. Or it was their fault, or as Golda Meir used to say, sort of, about the Arabs, the Palestinians, look what you made us do to you. And again, how sarcastic is he here? Does he agree with Golda Meir that the Palestinians made us do it to them? Is he being sarcastic towards sentiments like Golda Meir? We don't know. We don't know how many levels of sarcasm are here, and I think this is intentional. I think this is the way that he is manipulating himself and others. By saying, by being vaguely sarcastic and not clear, like, what are you saying here? Is she right or not? Do you really believe that it was Hamas or not? That thing that all of us, including that all of us, he emphasizes this, are born with the general compassion, universal compassion, not compassion intended for some people, but simply compassion for other living beings. Wow, he can almost sound like me. Compassion for all living beings. I speak about liberation and justice for all living beings. But when you speak about compassion for all living beings, then that's a different story. Compassion, you can lose. Compassion is something that the master can have for their inferiors, that the superiors can have for their inferiors, and then they can lose their compassion. If the inferiors behave in a rude way, if they step out of line, then you can lose your compassion. This is the problem with compassion. But justice, liberation, and equality, they are independent of whether the ones at the top of the hierarchy are want to be compassionate or don't want to be compassionate. Justice is absolute. Compassion is not. Okay. Not that intended and made my compassion selective. Hamas made my compassion selective because they're evil extremists, jihadists, whatever, terrorists. And in some cases, it barely exists. That's not the situation. That's not the situation I've ever been. That's not the situation I arrived to this planet in. That's not, when I was born, I wasn't like that. And then he speaks about his child, and his child does have compassion for everyone, including the cat, but she is naive, right? Her compassion is making her naive and do things that are not intelligent. She has the new compassion straight from the factory, okay? It's still in mint condition. Ones that allows you to empathize, la 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 la. So he adores the compassion of his child, but he lost his compassion and he became indifferent. But it's not his fault. So he thought about this, and then he thought about the Gazans, but then he immediately thought about the soldiers, the exhausted soldiers, our brave soldiers, and the hostages who were kidnapped and are now in Gaza. And his compassion is selective. And this is what October 7th did to people like me. Okay? He is not one of those who sobered up and now actively support the genocide, but he lost his compassion. And now he's indifferent. And he explains this indifference. And he says, I'm aware of this indifference and I'm sad about this indifference. And yes, it happened to me. It shouldn't have happened to me. But here, it did happen to me. I too argue that human choice has consequences. I lost my compassion, and I'm not one of those who sobered up and supports what is going on. But it does make me say that choices have consequences, that the choice, let's see, what choices have what consequences. And yes, unhappy Gazans, if you chose Hamas, if you elected Hamas, and even if it was imposed on you, quite easily it seems like you didn't really oppose it, right? You went with the flow. You actually support Hamas secretly. The consequences are what happens to you now. So you see, the Gazans, it's like the same sentiment, right? That he expressed before, only the reverse. That is so weird. That now, okay. So he didn't elect the government, the extremist right-wing government. So it's not his fault, but he's like, okay, I take responsibility. But when he talks about the people of Gaza, they did choose Hamas, and even if they didn't choose Hamas, it was imposed on them. And to be honest, they didn't really object to it so much, so it justifies the consequences. And what are the consequences? What he described way before. And your choices have consequences. What can we do? Your choices have consequences. So, bottom line, what is the bottom line of what Raanan Shaked is writing? That what is being done in Gaza is justified. In a roundabout way, he explains why he is justified. And yet, I have no right to love. I hate my indifference. I hate that I have to justify it, even if it's justifiable circumstances. It is my right to understand that something about the primitive desire for revenge that I witnessed. Okay. It is my right to understand that there is a problem with my indifference, that there is a problem with me supporting the genocide, but it's also the war, but it's also my right to support it. This is the way that he copes in February of 2024. He has many different coping mechanisms, and one of the roles of people, of columnists, liberal, Zionist, leftist, Tel Avivian, cosmopolitan, liberal, human rights advocates in Israel, is to give people who are similar to them, who are in the same social group, who are in the same milieu, the coping mechanisms needed to continue serving the system while not seeing yourself as a slave to the system, to continue supporting atrocities while still considering yourself a good and moral person. And the coping mechanism that he shows us here is, I am aware that something was diminished from my so-called humanity, okay, from my morality. It was diminished. I cannot feel compassion anymore. But you know what? It's justified. There's a reason for this. It's not good, but it's justified. This is the coping mechanism. And this post got, let's see, this post got almost 1,000 likes, almost 1,000 people. And this is on Facebook. And on the newspaper, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people read this and used this coping mechanism. And I experienced this when I spoke to liberal Zionists. I experienced them using this same coping mechanism of, I lost my compassion, it's bad, but what can I do? It's justified. I experienced many liberal Zionists using this coping mechanism. So Raanan's role in the system is to create and propagate these coping mechanisms that allow people to support and participate in the genocide while thinking of themselves as good people, as fundamentally good people. And Raanan Shaked did his job perfectly, but now he is taking his responsibility for the genocide and whitewashing it and blaming it all on the government, on the Messianic right-wing government. And this is what is happening in Israel right now. There is a project of whitewashing the responsibility of the vast majority of Jewish Israeli society for this genocide. And we should not let it happen. It's the exact thing that happened in the aftermath of the Holocaust that the Germans perpetrated on the Jews in the last century. And it's happening right now with the genocide that Israeli society is perpetrating on the Palestinians. And we should not let it happen. Never again. We shouldn't let Israelis remove responsibility from supporting and participating in the genocide. And we shouldn't let the entire Western world absolve and wash their hands of the responsibility that they have for this genocide. Okay, so again, I went on for quite a long time. I hope that you learned something from reading this post that represents the general sentiment in a very specific faction of liberal Zionist society, and in liberal Zionist society as a whole, and in liberal society as a whole, I think. And we see how the mechanisms of whitewashing works. And the more we see how these mechanisms of whitewashing work, we can resist them and expose them and not let them work as intended. Okay, so like the video, share this video with your friends, share other videos from the channel with your friends, join my Patreon if you want to support my work. Thank you to all the people who already joined my Patreon. What else? This is the link to my Patreon. If you're watching after the fact, the link to my Patreon is in the description of the video. Okay, free Palestine, free the entire planet, free all living beings, justice and liberation and equality for all, and bye-bye.